Today's episode of the Project Management for the Masses podcast is brought to you by Career Academy, a global leader in on-demand training solutions for IT and business professionals. What would you say if I told you can get complete video training packages for the PMP exam, PMI Agile Certified Practitioner, CAPM, and PMI Risk Management Professional certifications, and get up to 180 PDUs, all of it for just $99. Visit pmforthemasses.com/academy to sign up. The website again is pmforthemasses.com/academy.
Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business, write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Caesar Abaid.
Learn from the experts, think outside the box, have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Caesar Abaid, your host, and this show is your weekly reminder that your career matters more than your job and that your life is a project and you are the manager. Whether you work for a company or for yourself, your job stability is really just your ability to land your next gig. So join me in practicing intentional, planned, and value-adding relevance, starting right now. Now let me ask you a question this week. Are you an overachiever? Are you? Do you try to take on, more things that you can handle? Well, here's what happens to me. I was never an overachiever until I learned project management, until I became a project manager. Project management gave me tools and techniques and a system to actually get things done. And for once in my life, I started finishing my projects. I started to accomplish things. And that was an amazing feeling. And I felt like I had some superpowers. And as a result, I started to take on too much. And I wanted to do everything. And even after I realized that and I started to drop some projects and have less on my plate, I still have a lot to do. I mean, I have a full-time job and I'm an author, I'm a blogger, I'm a podcaster, and I have a family that depends on me, and I have 3 little kids and a wife and all these things. So I think I am, I can confess to you here that I am an overachiever. And I thought that many of us in this industry, many of us project managers will fall into this category. So on this week's episode of the Project Management for the Masses podcast, I enlisted the help of Jen Gresham. Jen is a PhD scientist turned writer and coach. She helps overachievers find the clarity and courage they need to design a life they love, whether that means defining success for themselves, changing careers, or simply finding the courage to live life on their own terms. She's also the founder of the No Regrets Career Academy and the author of the popular blog Everyday Bright.
Special guest coming up next. pmforthemasses.com. pmforthemasses.com.
Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I am an overachiever. I'm sorry.
I'm an overachiever too, so it's okay.
We were just talking about this right before I pressed record here, that I was a couple of minutes late to our meeting here because I had another call before this one, and I worked in the morning and I had to visit a client. I had to go to the bank. I had to do all these things, and I just packed it all in today. And so far it's been successful, but it's not every day that I can do all these things. And I think you're the perfect guest to talk about overachievement and success. So what do you say?
Yeah, I think for overachievers in particular, this is a tough topic because many overachievers tend to see things as an either or, right? So either I'm successful and I'm crazy busy and I'm, always pushing myself to my limits, or I'm lazy and I'm, not successful. And the idea is to actually try to find something in between those two extremes where, yes, you can be successful and it can be sustainable and you don't have to work until you drop. And a lot of that comes from redefining what success means.
So, yeah, it's okay. That's a good place to start. So how do you define success? I mean, different people define it differently. I read a definition once that just said, you're successful if you are intentionally moving towards a goal, and that was it. But then, what if you don't accomplish the goal? Are you successful?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I teach people that success is really made up of three things. It's made up of living a life in alignment with your core values. It's living a life that makes you proud of yourself, not just making others proud of you. And it's living a life that has the right balance between intrinsic and extrinsic motivators.
Oh, okay.
And when you pull those three things together and you sort of look at the essential elements that come for those three things, there's a few things that happens. One is that all of a sudden you realize you're already a lot more successful than you thought you were. So this is hands down one of the best outcomes I give my clients, is that when they go through this process with me, they're like, oh, so I'm already successful. I'm like, yeah, isn't that great? Right? Because for many overachievers, they're constantly chasing success. Success is always the next accomplishment away. But it's a moving target. They accomplish that, and then it's the next target, and then the next. So this helps you see that actually you're already a success. But the other thing that it allows you to do is that it really causes you to think about where you're putting your time and energy, because a lot of the times we're putting our time and energy into the things that society tells us is what success is all about, but it doesn't make us feel successful. And that's where that sort of empty feeling comes from, where you're just, working really, really hard, but you're not getting the personal returns that you expected.
Mm-hmm. So what are the three criteria again?
Yeah, so it's core values,
mm-hmm.
making yourself proud, and getting the right mix of intrinsic and extrinsic motivators.
Okay, so what are those? What are intrinsic and extrinsic motivators?
Yeah, so most people are very familiar with extrinsic motivators. Those are external rewards. They're sort of the prize for completing something. So that can be money, can be praise, can be an award. It can be all of those things, right? So this is the type of motivation where it's the outcome that matters. Intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, is where you're motivated by the activity itself. So regardless of what you get at the end, it doesn't really matter. And we see this, for example, this is my classic example, is someone who goes fishing. Whether or not they catch a fish is really immaterial. That's not why they're there. They're there because the activity of fishing itself is motivating. And everybody has a whole bunch of things, and these are very personal. And in fact, it turns out that even extrinsic motivators are very personal. This is something I talk about with my clients, is that, again, many of us have been sold on what extrinsic motivators really work. That doesn't work for everyone. But intrinsic motivators are also very personal, and we all have it. And one of the easiest ways to know what those are for you, and I teach many different, but one of the easiest is to say, what are those activities that bring me flow?
What do you mean?
So where you just sort of get lost in the activity itself,
Okay.
You sort of lose a sense of time. It's very internally rewarding.
So for you, for example, what are some of those activities?
For me, it is reading. It's problem solving. So like if I get started talking to somebody, especially in a coaching call, one of the reasons I very rarely do in-person coaching anymore is because I get into such a state of flow that an hour-long session turns into 2 or 3 because I completely lose sight of what we're doing and the time frame we're supposed to be doing it in. So those kinds of things are very intrinsically rewarding to me. For many people, you'll find that artistic endeavors tend to be intrinsically rewarding. So maybe music or painting, writing can be that way once you get into it. Often starting writing is not perhaps a state of flow, but once you get into it, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely. I find that with my own writing. I'm finishing this book now, and it's hard to get started, But then once you start and you get the idea flowing, then I could write for 2 hours straight and not even notice.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So now here's the problem with overachievers, including myself. We have this tendency to compare ourselves to other people, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and I think it plays with the making yourself proud. Like it's. I think a lot of folks don't think they have it in them to make themselves proud. So they overachieve, trying to have results that will make up for that. So does that resonate? Is that true? How does that work?
Yeah, so certainly the compare and despair is what I call it, is huge for overachievers. And so one of the reasons that having a personal definition of success is so important is because for the most part, when we're comparing ourselves against someone else, all we get to see is sort of the surface level of their success. What we don't see is, what went into that outcome. So we don't know how much time they spent. We don't know what trade-offs they made. And we don't even know if they personally enjoyed it, frankly. And I think that's where you need to go back to your own definition of success, because truly success is about trade-offs, right? This idea that we can have it all, which is sort of the overachiever's total dream, just isn't realistic. And what I mean by that is that there are only so many hours in a day. We only have so much energy if we want to maintain our health, if we want to maintain our relationships. And it's really easy to lose sight of some of those things when we're pursuing particularly professional success. But I know for myself, for example, one of my core values is family first. My family is just the bedrock of my feeling successful. And any professional success that would cause me to make trade-offs in my family relationships is simply not worth it for me. Mm-hmm. And that's a conscious choice. Now, somebody else may not have that definition of success. And I think it's important to note that that's okay, right? What their vision is of a family and what my vision is of a family may be completely and utterly different. So that's why it's dangerous to compare yourself to someone else, because you don't know what trade-offs they're making. And in many cases, for most people, they're not even conscious. Those trade-offs are not conscious. So this is how you have people who they have some enormous professional success, but they say, wow, and now I'm in the hospital because I've completely burnt myself out. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who have come to me saying, okay, I burned myself out. I had to quit my job and go, I was in the hospital for a month. I was unable to work because I just completely, I was depleted. And so, right, but up until that moment, they would have appeared like, wow, look at all the things that they've been able to do. Mm-hmm. But that's a case of someone who's making an unconscious trade-off versus someone who's making a conscious trade-off.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's say in the context of work, let's say somebody listening right now is a part of a team, or they're the team leader, project manager, for example. And that's fine. They have their definition for success, but the company or their boss or their team, they have a different definition. And by their definition, you're failing. So how does one balance, your internal definition of success and feeling good about that, and the external expectations that are put on you, and not from strangers, but from people who matter, like people who work with you and your family?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that for most overachievers, that's a very unlikely scenario. Most overachievers are overachieving in almost every area of their life, right? And that's one of the things that we see, is that it's not even that they want to succeed in just one area, it's everything. So I would be surprised if an overachiever had a boss that they were failing. What can happen, though, is that they've overcommitted and they're not able to live up to all the commitments that they've made. And so in order to either try to meet deadlines, they lower the quality of their work, or they just are, again, so burnt out that the quality level naturally decreases. I mean, we know scientifically that chronic sleep deprivation is somewhat equivalent to being drunk. So if you wouldn't go to work drunk to do your best work, going to work sleep deprived day after day after day isn't doing yourself any favors either. But again, we're less conscious of that outcome than we would be if we were drinking. Mm-hmm. So you can have things like that. And in those situations, what I would say is that really that's a time to take a step back and really think about where you're putting your time and energy. And for almost all overachievers, they need to do some serious decluttering of their commitments. And they need to get a lot more strategic about where they can have the biggest impact. The other thing that's really interesting about overachievers is that even though they are, again, in most cases, very successful at everything they do, they also like to hedge their bets. And what I mean by that is they're like, I'm not exactly sure where I'm really going to make my mark. Is it going to be through my kids? Is it going to be as an athlete? Is it going to be at work? And that's one of the reasons that overachievers tend to overcommit, because they're sort of hedging their bets. And a really good thing to do here is to say, where would I like my biggest impact to be? And to narrow that down to, Warren Buffett will say no more than 5. I would say if you're looking at the big picture, probably no more than 2.
So in your case, for example, it's family, right?
It's family.
Yeah. But then you need to feed them and you need to work. So that would be your number 2.
Right. So, and again, that has driven very big decisions within my own business model. I think you and I talked last time about how I was trying to do both a book and do a coaching business and run a blog. And so I had all these activities going, and I finally decided I cannot do all of these to the quality level that I really want. And so right now my focus is on coaching. And when I have that at a certain level and, that's ramped up, then I can see if I have time to add more things back in. But the results of the focus have been astronomical. And what I've seen is more than a 5-fold increase in my coaching business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just wanted to share a couple things here because this is really resonating. People write to me all the time, including some of my guests, when we're not recording, before the call or after the call. I get this all the time. Like, I don't know how you do all that you do. I admire you for that, And I almost sense like that they're looking up to me, because of I can do this. But as you said, they don't know what the cost is. Like, for example, this week, there's nobody in the office. Everybody's out on vacation. I'm alone. It's a small company, right? And so I'm alone there. And I'm also keeping, I'm here talking to you. I had another call earlier. I'm writing this book. I'm super behind on the book. I just finished a blog post that I need to submit today, and I'm doing all these things. And the result is I barely saw my wife, this week, and I think I slept an average of maybe 4 hours every night, this week. So. Right. And because I think I have that overachiever in me, I spring out of bed in the morning and I'm like excited, like let's do what I need to do today. And I don't feel like it's a drag, but what you're saying is that it is, I could be doing a lot more by doing less.
Yes, absolutely. And the other piece to all of that, and I think, again, this is where overachievers can get into trouble, is that you feel like, well, you know what, it's just this week that's busy. There's some external things going on that aren't always true. But once I get past this week, things are going to slow down. And I call this the big break myth. So overachievers are completely, they buy into this all the time. I just have to get past this month and everything's going to slow down. Then you get past that month and it's, well, you know what, I just have to get this book done and everything's going to slow down. And it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a huge difference between having to sort of ramp things up and sustain things at a higher level for a short period of time, which is certainly true for anybody, versus telling yourself you're ramping up for a short period of time and really trying to sustain that your entire life.
Yeah, that speaks to me as well, because I'm, for me this year, the big milestone is the book. And then, okay, when the book is done, I can breathe. But at at the same time, I know I have like 3 or 4 ideas already for things I want to do next. And I'm already kind of, hedging my bets here with those things. I'm already planting seeds with people and telling them that I'm interested in doing this and that. And I'm just afraid that it's going to happen. Once the book is published and it's selling, then hey, on to the next thing. And it's going to be even more busy.
Right. And then you have the book marketing, right? So what happens, and again, we kind of think part of the big break myth is that we think that one of our achievements is going to really solve our problems for us. In the very, very back of our minds, we really believe like, I'm just going to publish this book and it's going to sell like bonkers. And then I won't have to work so hard because people are going to come flocking to me and everything's going to get easy.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that delusional.
You can tell me that, but I'm telling you in the back of your mind somewhere, there is a niggle of that belief. And believe me, I believe it too, right? I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you have to sort of catch yourself when you're telling yourself, well, everything's going to slow down. Because it simply isn't going to work that way. What happens is the expectations for what you're going to do and what you're going to deliver just go up and up and up.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. I mean, there is a little bit of that. You're right. There is a little bit of if the book is out, then I can focus on marketing, and that's going to sell more, and then I'll be able to do this, that, and the other. But I just know that there's always going to be something, and this is very good advice, just to pare down and focus on one thing at a time and do that well instead of, juggling a bunch of things and dropping them and being sloppy, I guess.
Well, and I think this goes back to the idea of the intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. Most overachievers rely way too much on extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation works very well in the short term, but it cannot sustain you over your lifetime. And so if you think about, why am I really writing this book? Certainly part of it is what it will do for your business. But I imagine that a part of it is I really want to, get my ideas down. And writing the books helped me clarify them. It gives me a vehicle for talking to interesting people and gathering ideas that I can then put together with the ideas I already have. The process needs to be interesting. So, what I always tell people, we have that cliche, right? It's about the journey, not the destination.
Right.
But my take on that is that if you're not enjoying the journey, you probably won't really enjoy the destination as much as you think. And I think kind of going back to that intrinsic, extrinsic motivator and getting the right balance there is if the book is all about achieving something, it will eventually become a drain. And again, this is not just about your book. It's about any project or task or achievement that any of us are working on. So paring down to focus is not, it shouldn't be about the loss, right? I have to give those things up. It's this is what I want to dedicate myself to. This is what I really want to get right.
All right, just a quick break here to let you know that we have a sponsor. Career Academy is offering an exclusive project management certification training bundle for the PM for the Masses listeners, which you can get at pmforthemasses.com/academy. This bundle includes complete video training packages for the PMP exam, PMI ACP or Agile Certified Practitioner, CAPM, and the PMI Risk Management Professional certifications. Also, you can get up to 180 PDUs with this bundle, and the cost is only $99. So yeah, go to pmforthemasses.com/academy and sign up. Again, go to pmforthemasses.com/academy to sign up. Very good. I think this show is more for me than for my audience today.
We're doing on-air coaching. This is wonderful.
And you're very good at it. So we'll make sure to share your contact at the end here because, man, this is fantastic. Okay, well, let's talk about core values because I think I speak with a lot of people, as I said, people who listen to my podcasts and sometimes I notice that this is not, for me, I'm a person of faith. I'm always thinking about these things. I try to read spiritual things every morning and think about the big picture. So this is always in the back of my mind about core values and things like that. But I think by talking to people, this is an afterthought, and they don't really know what they're about. How important is it for you to figure that out?
I would say in many, and this is going to sound like I'm overstating it. I'm just going to put that out there in advance, but I can't think of anything more important than understanding what your core values are and how to use them. This is by far the number one thing my clients love about the stuff that I teach and working with them. If I did nothing else for people, I could just do this and I would be changing lives.
And so how does that work?
Yeah. So basically what I tell people is that, first of all, you should know what your core values are, right? So if I ask you, what are your core values? You should be able to say what they are. Secondly, though, you know, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, I've done that exercise. I've looked at a bunch of words and I circled 5 things and there they are. But the problem is those words are often very generic and esoteric, right? So maybe I say that I value, one of my core values, let's say, is adventure. But what does that really mean, right? What I mean by adventure and what somebody else means by adventure can be very, very different. So you need to understand what your core values are at a level of granularity that you know how to implement them, because your core values, these are your navigation aids for life. That means that they are the driving principles that you're using to make every single decision, big and small. So when I sit there and I say, should I go to the gym or should I clean out my email? That is a question of core values. Just as much as when I say, should I quit my job and relocate the family to Bermuda, or should I hang in there for another year and do some savings before I consider a career change? Both of those decisions will come back to what my core values are.
Mm-hmm. So how does one find? But and here's the thing: can these core values change over time? And
Yes.
how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So what I tell people is that when they pick their core values and they define them for themselves, again, with enough granularity so that they know that how to use them, that is sort of the first pass. So in the short term, you're going to end up iterating on those and making small changes. So let me give you a personal example. When I did this for myself, I came up with 3 values and I was very happy with them, and that was great. And I was implementing them on a day in, day out basis. And what I realized again was that with my overachiever nature, my core values were driving me to exhaustion, right? So you already know one of my core values, which is family first. And then there was another one, which was courage. And then there was a third, which was impact. And so if I implemented those 3 values alone, I just wore myself out. So I intentionally added a 4th core value, which was health and well-being. And that forced me now, when I got to a decision, should I go work out or should I clear out my email? You know, should I go to my daughter's recital, or should I, take some time for myself and relax? It was my core values that allowed me to work out those decisions. So that was one way in which your core values can change. The second is major life events, right? So when I was young, before I was married, before I had a daughter, family first would not have been one of my core values. It is now. So major life events can also impact what those core values can be. And third, you may find that you want an aspirational core value. So one of the things I always tell my clients is to think about, are these really things that you're living your life by now? It's very easy to say, I value, again, let's go back to our adventure. I value adventure, but am I really living it? And so sometimes people can say, I'm not living it now, but this is something I really feel will improve my life and I need in my life. So it's an aspirational core value. And then you're going to test it out and see if you're really willing to make the changes to add that in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not a internal conversation that a lot of people are having. But I think we all have some core value. There's some things that we just don't do on principle, even if we never thought about it. And there's some other things that we do on principle that also we haven't never thought about that. But so how does one start that journey of finding and defining their core values so they can set themselves up for success with the other things as well?
Yeah, so it's at the face of it, it's fairly simple. So you can, Google core values, list of core values out on the internet, and you can find all sorts of lists. And I tell people to just look at those lists and to find and circle the ones that deeply resonate with them. So, and again, remembering sort of the bar here is high. This is not circle everything that you think is of value. These are the principles by which I want to live my life and by which I want to make my decisions. So the bar is high, but you circle these values, and what you're going to find is some themes, right? So what you're really looking for is which of these can go together and how can I define those into buckets. You really can't have, in my opinion, more than about 5 core values. So it doesn't mean that you don't value something. It just means it isn't a core value. Again, it isn't making your decisions for you. So once you have those, then the trick is to define them and to get very specific. So that is, if I were to look at your definitions of core values and I were to follow you around for the day, I would know if you were living up to them or not. That's how specific they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But, let me just give you a quick example because I think examples are really helpful. So I've told you one of my own core values is courage. And back when I was getting started as a blogger, I was thinking about going to my very first blogging conference. I'd been blogging for just a few months. And I used to be a scientist. I was a PhD scientist in the military for 16 years. So this was a brand new world for me. And I also happened to be an introvert. So the idea of going into a new field where I didn't know a single soul in the blogging world was very scary for me. So I almost didn't go. And then I said, what would courage say? Courage would tell you to go. So I went. And then I, was following a bunch of, big name bloggers on social media. And I happened to notice that one of them was holding a private party at this conference. And I was like, oh, wow, I wish I was the kind of person who could get invited to a party like that, but I'm a nobody. And that's when I said, what would courage say? And courage says, why don't you just ask if you can come?
Uh-huh.
And so I emailed this blogger and I said, you don't know me at all. I'm a brand new blogger. I said, but I would love to come to your party. It just sounds like it would be so much fun and it would be great for me to meet some people in the business. He said, sure, why don't you come? Right? And that was when I was like, holy cow, this is so powerful. And so then I got to the conference, and I want you to know I met and got the email address for every single top name blogger that I wanted to meet. Hmm. And every single time it was scary. And whether or not it had worked or not, again, this is where we get to, instead of something being outcome dependent, what was important was that I forced myself to try.
Yeah.
And that's that feeling of success, right? Because if I'm living in alignment with my core values, whether or not you give me your email address is actually unimportant. Right.
Yeah, because it was courage, and what materialized that was the you asking and not the you getting the response.
That's right.
So you were courageous, and hey, you did get an email address as well. So bonus.
Right. It was a bonus.
Yeah.
And I think that is where, again, you start to see the real power of this, is that you start feeling successful because of the actions that you're taking that are in alignment with your values. And it's about living life on your terms, not somebody else's.
Yeah. And that is a constant theme here on the show. Life is a project, you're the manager. That's my tagline. And really believe that. I guess that's one of my core values now. I never voiced it that way, but I guess it is.
Yes.
And, just go there and do something and stop whining. Just you are in control and you're responsible for what happens to you. And I like that because, especially the courage one, because it's so easy to make decisions when you have those core values well defined. Because every the way I see it, every minute of your life is what marks time is choices that you make. Right now I could choose to sit up straight as I talk to you, or there's always a choice. And I think a lot of stress. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think many of the reasons why people are stressed is because they don't know what to do. And if you have a GPS system that is your core values, then it makes it easier for you to make these thousands of decisions every day, and yet less for you to think about.
I completely agree. And again, from a scientific perspective, we know absolutely decision fatigue is not only real, but it's a big impact. And so anything you can do to reduce that decision fatigue is just energy in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. Create a system. It's basically, it's project management. You're creating a system for your decision making so you can trust it and not have to think about it.
Right, because again, most people don't have a good set of criteria for making a decision, right?
Yeah.
As they're trying to make the decision, they're sort of throwing up criteria. Well, should this decision be about money? Should it be about prestige? Should it be about this? Should it be about that? They don't know what it should be about. Having a set of core values tells you exactly what those criteria need to be.
Awesome. This is fantastic. Now, Jennifer, let's say folks are listening and they're nodding their heads in agreement, and this is speaking to them, and they realize that they need to do something. So do you have, I'll put you on the spot here, do you have maybe something very tangible, something very actionable that people can turn off this podcast right now and implement right away that they can start seeing results immediately?
Yes, because so much of what I'm talking about is really a mental shift in your thinking. And this is one of my favorite exercises to do with clients. And for many people, this is mind-blowing. And I'm going to ask your permission if you would be willing to do this exercise as an example for people.
Okay, right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to name for me one person who you consider an unconditional success. That is, you feel that they are successful really in every way.
Somebody who is a success in every way. I need to tell you, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Let me think here for a second. I would say my wife.
Okay.
Yes.
Why would you say your wife?
I'd say my wife because she, first of all, she's an amazing person, and I think her core value is service. One of her core, even maybe she hasn't voiced it that way, and she lives according to that. She's our kids are amazing, and I think they came out that way, but I think 99% of it is due to her being the way she is, and I think there's a value there that she has, and she acts according to it.
So this tells me so much about you. So let me just tell you what the common answer is to this question, and then I'm going to tell you what your answer means.
Oh, okay.
A very common answer to this question is Bill Gates.
Oh.
So that is an interesting answer because one, right, I think he's the richest guy in the world, or very close to being the richest guy in the world. So that's a pretty high bar. Usually it also has to do with the service work that he does. But again, it's service work at a scale that most of us can't really match.
Yeah.
And third, he's a celebrity. So most of us don't have enough insight into Bill Gates' life, again, to have the knowledge of the trade-offs that he's made for these different kinds of successes. So what I worry about when people give me an answer like Bill Gates is that the bar for success is so high that they will never achieve it. If success to them means Bill Gates, what are the chances any of us are going to get that high?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right? But what's very interesting about your answer is that it's someone that you know intimately. You know everything, that one can know about another person.
Right.
And so this brings success to a very different level. And what it tells me is that you actually have a pretty healthy relationship with your definition of success and the types of expectations and assumptions that you're bringing to success.
Interesting. Well, when you asked me the question, I was just thinking of the people I know personally. I wasn't even thinking about the celebrities and things like that. But because I don't know. Bill Gates does a lot, but he has a lot as well. So he has a lot of bandwidth when it comes to resources. So yeah, he gives this much money and this much time to charities, for example. But how much of what is the ratio there between what's available to them and what he gives?
Right.
And I look at my wife. The ratio is like 1-to-1. It's all of it. It's like there is no self. Almost. It's like she's just giving, and I think that's when if we're looking at ratios, she's way more charitable than anybody else I know.
Right. The other interesting thing about this exercise, again, in terms of common answers, that it's not uncommon for someone to tell me, well, actually, I don't know anyone I consider an unconditional success. Mm-hmm. That is a very interesting answer, again, in and of itself, because what it means is you have done what I call pick and choose success. So that is, I want to be as successful as Joe in terms of my athleticism, and I want to be as successful as Sally as a mother, and I want to be as successful as Ramit as a business person, and I want to be as successful as Gretchen as an author, right? But there is no one person that embodies my vision of success, which tells me absolutely it is unobtainable.
Yeah, it's like Frankenstein, successful Frankenstein.
Right. Right. And again, when people go through this exercise with me, very often they're like, holy cow, I had no idea. I was essentially setting myself up for failure by defining success in a way that was not achievable. Mm-hmm. And that's why I talk about the mindset of success is so important. Yeah.
And I said my wife, but that I hesitated because there is, she and I could be working out more, doing exercise is a big thing here that we don't do, we don't do it enough. So, this is something that, there's room for improvement, not just for her, but for me as well, for this whole household, to be honest.
Right.
But again, it's not because it's not one of the core values. It's not, it's something that we believe it's important, but it's not so important as to be one of the core values for our family, I guess.
This is such a good point because I think, again, it's very easy for us to get caught up in equating success with perfection. And success is not perfection. And so all of us have areas where we could improve and we think, yeah, it'd be great if I worked out more, if I did this or that. But you can still be successful even if you're not doing those things, as you said, if it's not part of your definition of success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you have your core values and you're sticking to them and you're true to them, then that's you. I think it was Mother Teresa had said that. What was it? God that does not call us to be successful, but to be, what's the word? Oh my goodness, to be faithful, and to be faithful and not successful, because sometimes they go together, sometimes they don't. But if you are being faithful to your core values, then what you in a way that in and of itself is a success.
Yes,
Interesting.
absolutely. And I think, yeah, being faithful to who you really are. I mean, think about how many of us are tempted day in and day out to be someone we're not, to put on a mask,
Yeah.
to pretend we like something that we don't, to commit to something that we don't really want to do. We are tempted in those ways every single day. So simply to be faithful to yourself is quite an accomplishment.
Jennifer, this is fantastic. And let's, in an attempt to be faithful to our time commitment here, I could talk to you for another 2 hours. But okay, so I'm going to just get up on my soapbox here for a second and talk to my audience for a minute. The value of working with people and having positive people in your life. And sometimes that can come in the form of coaching. And I've had coaching in the past. I work with a coach right now for my book publishing, and I cannot overestimate the value of having someone stand by you as you go through decisions, as you go through life, and as you try to be better. And I know, Jennifer, we talked about you being a coach here. I'd like you to talk to the people who are listening right now about your coaching and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so the easiest way to get in touch with me is simply to send an email to Jen, Jen, at everydaybright.com. And what I do for people is, we'll talk by email just a little bit about, what your goals are for coaching and how I might be able to help you. And if I think that I'm a good match for you, we'll set up a call and really do that in depth. And that call is completely complimentary. I always want people to experience what it's like to work with me, because coaching is so personal. So there's never any obligation to work with me beyond that complimentary call. But that allows me to really go deep into what your situation is and where I think you need work. But that's not for everybody. Some people really like to do things on their own. So I also have a few self-study courses. One of those is the Overachievers Guide to Meaningful Success. And you'll see a link to that off my website, everydaybright.com. Or if you think that you need something even bigger than that, which is, my success includes changing careers. I also am the founder of the No Regrets Career Academy, and there's a link for that off my website as well.
Okay, and I'll have links to all this on the show notes for today's episode. And one last thing I wanted to talk to my audience about is that we project managers, a lot of times we come from an engineering technical background, and we don't have time for this type of stuff, right? Because we're very logical minded, and I think if you're feeling stressed and you're feeling like you're not achieving what you would like to achieve, if you're feeling that you're not successful and you think you'd like to do better, remember that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So maybe I need to open your mind. I know I had, it changed my world once I started looking inwards a little bit more, and take this opportunity. I went through the landing page here for the course, the Meaningful Success for Overachievers. It sounds like a great course to take, and it's a way to get involved and learn a little bit more about your content, and take advantage of the free call. It doesn't hurt. So again, you have the show, the links that we talked about here today, and the show notes for today's episode, and people can find that at pmforthemasses.com. Jennifer, thank you so much. This was delightful. Maybe I need to have you back and continue this conversation.
Yes, I would love to. And if I can just add one thing, because I really resonated with something you just said, is this idea of engineers, feeling all logical and structured and feeling that, I don't have time for all that woo-woo personal development stuff.
Right.
I'm a scientist by training. So I actually think that these two need to come together. And the problem for most of us is that we don't have a logical, structured process for dealing with our emotions and making good decisions. So that is a lot of what I do and I always like to say it's like applying the scientific method to your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I mean, you broke down success, which is a very blurry edged definition and very soft skill thing, undefined thing, and you defined it and you divided it into 3 manageable parts, and then you have a recipe for us to work on each one of them. That's very I bet that speaks to a lot of the project managers listening right now, because that's a plan, and
Right.
that's a checklist.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that. I think that is a great way to kind of bridge that gap there, and that's very clever.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a delight.
Thank you, Jennifer. And again, I'll have all the links that we talked about on the show notes. And please reach out to Jennifer on social media and through her website and connect with her, because she's just fantastic, as you know now. Thank you, Jennifer. Enjoy the weekend.
All right. Thanks, you too.
You are listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jen, and hopefully some of the things that we talked about today will resonate with you, and maybe you can, realize that there's help available if you are an overachiever, and if you have some difficulty with defining what success is for you. And I really recommend you go and check out Jen's website, and which you can find at everydaybright.com. And I will have links to both her website, her blog, and also the No Regrets Career Academy on today's episode notes, which you can find at pmforthemasses.com/86. So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jen there. Now, let me talk about today's sponsor, which is Career Academy. And I mentioned to you last week, and a lot of you have gone to the link that I shared to take advantage of this amazing offer. Let me just refresh your memory. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, Career Academy has put together a special training certification bundle, which they call the Project Management Certification Training Bundle, that is specially designed for the PM for the Masses community. And I'm really, really excited to bring this offer to you. Let me just tell you right off the bat that it costs $99, and $99 includes everything that I'm going to describe here to you. You can earn up to 180 PDUs or contact hours, which is an amazing value for this amount of money. You can get up to 12 months access to all these courses. You get on-demand training that may be accessed at any time. It comes with review quizzes. You can print your workbooks, which is a fantastic thing if you like to have a workbook in your hands like I do as you're studying. You get certificates of completion. Career Academy is also PMI REP recognized, so you know you're in good hands there. The courses are taught by highly certified and expert instructors. And this bundle is really for people who are either new to project management and they need some certifications, or they already have their certifications and they're looking for PDUs. So this is, I hope I'm speaking right to you right now, because I know that many of you listening right now will fall into this category. And that's why I'm so excited to bring this offer here too, because I think it's a great fit for us. The certifications that are covered on in this bundle is the PMP, the PMI ACP, which is the Agile Certified Practitioner, CAPM, and PMI RMP, which is the Risk Management Professional. So there's a lot included in these courses. Besides the four certifications, there is executive strategy and management training, introduction to project management. There's a quality management course that is over 2 hours in duration, and you can get 7 PDUs for this course. There's risk management professional, as I said. There's schedule and course control. I mean, there's a lot that's included in this $99. Now, what I didn't mention to you last week is that there are even more bundles that you can get by going to the link that I'm going to share with you. Oh, and by the way, the link is pmforthemasses.com/academy. That's very easy to remember. pmforthemasses.com/academy. Now, besides the $99 Project Management Certification Training Bundle that I briefly described to you, there are more bundles that they put together that's also available at pmforthemasses.com/academy. And I'll list some of them here. For the Agile Certification in Scrum Training Bundle, that's $69. CompTIA Certification Training Bundle for $69 as well. Microsoft MCSA Certification Training Bundle for also $69. I'll list some more here. Dual Microsoft MCSC Certification Training Bundle. Dual Cisco CCNA and CCNP Certification Training Bundle. Microsoft Office Specialist Certification Training Bundle. VMware dual IT certification online training bundle. And those are all either $99 or $69 or $39. I mean, it's amazing value. And again, I'm really excited to have Career Academy on board here as a sponsor of the show. So again, for you to take advantage of these offers, you have to go to pmforthemasses.com/academy. That's a special website that they created, a special landing page specifically for us. And when you land there, you're going to see the PM for the Masses logo. You're going to see a detailed description of all these packages. And I really hope that you go and take advantage of this, because this is only going to be available during the time that they're sponsoring the show, which is limited. So again, go to pmforthemasses.com/academy and check out these amazing bundles. And thanks, Career Academy, for being a sponsor of the Project Management for the Masses podcast. Now, before I go today, I just wanted to give you an update on my book. As you may know, if you've been listening to the show, I've been writing a book called Project Management for You, which is an introduction, very high-level introduction to project management for folks who are new to this industry, or they're not aware that it exists, or just for people who are trying to turn their ideas into reality, deliver on their promises, and getting things done, which is what project management does. The book is called Project Management for You, and really it's just about ready to go to print. I'm holding in my hands right now, as I sit here behind the microphone, I'm holding the proof that I received from the printer. I just received it yesterday. It's the second round of proofs. The first one, there were some issues. Second one, there are only 2 pages that I need to correct. Everything else looks perfect. I have also the dust jacket for the book. Looks fantastic, and I'm really excited. And I believe before the end of this week, this book is going to go to print, and then I'll have the first batch of prints of copies in a few weeks. I believe 3 or 4 weeks from when I give them the go ahead. So I'm really excited. And if you'd like to reserve a copy of this first batch, because I don't know, once these first copies are gone, I don't know when else I'm going to order new prints. So if you'd like to reserve a copy of it, go to projectmanagementforyou.com and pre-order. And also there is a special price right now. I'm not charging you for shipping if you pre-order. After I have the books and I'm actually selling copies, then the prices are going to change, because I will start charging for shipping. And so if you're buying the book right now and you are in Japan, I will ship it to you to Japan at no cost to you. So it's a great deal. So go to projectmanagementforyou.com to take advantage of that. And this link, and also the link to the Career Academy bundles, and also to Jen Gresham's website, will be found at pmfromthemasses.com/86, which is the show notes for today's episode. And that's what I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jen Gresham. I hope you enjoyed learning about these packages that are available to you by Career Academy. And I will talk to you again next week. And until then, my friends, remember that life is a project and you are the manager. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
pmforthemasses.com